Here's Peter's concept of geo. It's definitely looking pretty badass, and as you can see, there's quite a few things that we're gonna have to model in. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Uh, Here's a body that we had in the previous chapter that we're using just for the underlying element. So we're just literally using this to build everything on top. This won't be used in the final model. Also, I'll mention again that I've included this model with the DVD. So maybe if you guys just want to have like a quick rough reference, you could just go ahead and grab that. So we're gonna start out with by building out the sleeve area. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and extrude this out, and we're gonna have this be our start point, which is gonna be your sleeve for the suit. We're gonna keep it fairly simple for now, and then when we're finished, we'll go back in and add different loops. So we're just gonna do a lot of extrudes along using the body as a template. One thing that I did notice that was an advantage in the concept is that because there's so many parts to the suit, we could actually just build everything modular, meaning that we don't have to have the sleeve attached to the chest or attached to the vest underneath the sides or attached to the back. We could just build everything separate. So that's going to be a lot easier for us because our loops are just contained to that section. One of the reasons why we're starting with the arm is that I figured it would be the material that's underneath everything. So picture putting on a shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and then putting on a vest above that, and then putting on a chest plate above that, and then shoulder pads above that. So what happens is you're layering according to thickness. So that's the same case with the arms, only we're not building out anywhere around we're not actually building out further around the arm. So, but we do know that the chest area, which is a more padded material, that's going to be on top of the arm, and also on top of the arm is the padding around the sides. That's going to be above that also, and then the shoulder pads is going to be above all of that. So we're building the geometry that's closest to his body first, and then we're going to go ahead and build a second geometry out, and then we're going to continue building out. So for deformation wise, this is actually tucked under all three different layers. Okay, so we're going to get this sleeve a lot closer to the arm. We don't want it to sit exactly on it. We could have, if that was the case, we could have used any any shrink wrap tools, but we just need it to be a lot closer so it doesn't feel too loose. But we don't want it to be exactly on the arm because then it's gonna feel just like a little bit. We don't want it to be a tighter material like that. We need some looseness in there. So we're gonna go ahead and detach the forearm pads, and we're gonna just go from there and build it out. We're gonna also detach the elbows and just go ahead and extrude that when we're done. So pretty much we're just stepping up and dividing the mesh a little bit more. Here we added in some loops going across for the arms, for the sleeve, and we're just gonna extrude these guys out, and these are gonna represent the padding that's on the suit. So we may need to add another loop so we don't get that rounded look after it's smooth. So we're gonna go ahead and add in a loop on top and bottom. Now when we smooth this again, it just supports the loop a lot better. Okay. Right there I added in, I didn't need that extra extrude that I did earlier, so I just took a step back and took that out and then just added back in the loops to support the pads. the edge. So the key point is we're trying to keep this, uh, trying to put in as much detail as possible without putting in unnecessary geometry. And we're gonna try to keep the model as light as we can. Okay, so we're just making sure everything's blocked in. It's looking decent so far. Um, keep in mind everything will be added later on, like wrinkles in the sleeve. We're not gonna go ahead and model those in. Those we could we could apply those later on with maybe a displacement map or just a corrective map that would be triggered by the rig whenever he bends his arm, bends his elbow, whether it's forward or back. So we'll deal with that at a later time. Right now we're just gonna keep the geometry as simple as we can. Okay, so we went in and just extracted these faces from the sleeve, and we're gonna use this to just get the shoulder pads shape. So we're gonna take out all the unnecessary loops that came along with extracting this from the sleeve, and we're just gonna set this up so we could start going ahead and adding in the correct loops. So we're giving this a little bit of thickness here, and we're gonna go in and just make sure our edges are supported, so when we smooth, we don't get that round look. We're gonna go ahead and adjust this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just continue on the shoulder pad here. As quite straightforward modeling. We're gonna use our existing loops and just maybe instead of two loops in the middle, we're gonna double up and then just start cutting in the grooves so that we can have our pad. We're gonna then move on to our chest area after. So here we have a little slight jump forward, and all we did was just made a few more loops in there and extruded the grooves, and we're gonna be actually using that a lot. We're gonna be inserting loops a lot and extruding a lot, especially since there's a lot of little pieces of objects. Okay, so now I have a live feature turned on in the body, and what this does is it just enables me to snap my geometry to the body, or I could snap a curve to my body also. In this case, I'm gonna start the underlying vest area. I don't think it's a vest. I think the vest is in the front, but there's also a different material around his body at the side. So we're gonna start on that. So we're just gonna snap this and extrude around, and we're gonna go ahead and start from there. And again, for each of the pieces that we're actually modeling in, we don't have to make it fully cover the entire body. Same thing we did with the sleeve, where it was just a little piece. For this, we're just gonna do the visible areas and a little bit extra. So just a little bit extra is just so we don't get a gap between this guy and the sleeve, or this guy and the vest area. So we're just gonna go ahead and start just moving this down, and we're gonna just extrude until we get the shirt fitting right over the body. So we're gonna go ahead and extrude this. Okay, we're gonna continue until we have this shirt area fleshed in a little bit more. And all we're doing is extruding and merging, and yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. Well, after we get her shaped, then we're gonna insert some edge loops and make sure that we have an even density around. Okay, just try to keep this as neat as possible. Okay, so we're not gonna need anything fancy out of this underline um, section. It's just gonna be for, we're gonna cut some holes in there, and I think this back piece is gonna be some kind of padding. So just having loops running just right across should be fine. What we're doing now is we're adding some more in, and we're just gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing we did for the arm. We just add enough in, support the loops, and then we go ahead and just extrude. Okay, so we're gonna move over to the front, and we're gonna start putting some holes in here. I think Peter placed these holes in the design. I'm not too sure what the function is, or even if there's a function, but I'm assuming it's more for aesthetics reasons, just to balance out this front area and not leave it as plain, since we have all the padding in the back. Um, it could be for, there could be some function to this, but I'm not sure what it is. So right now everything we're doing is just pretty basic. A lot of extrudes, a lot of support in our edges, making sure our shape holds up. Really simple stuff. So a lot of smoothing, going back and forth, making sure everything's okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make this live, and we're gonna start on the chest and back piece, which is actually one piece of object. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So we're gonna go ahead and just extrude that out. And a lot of stuff that I do sometimes seems unorthodox, but whatever workflow do you have for going about getting certain shapes, as long as it's not taking too long, your workflow is your workflow. That's what you're comfortable with. A lot of times I'll go in and I'll do something a different way, different time. So I'm never too sure what I'm gonna do next, or what approach I'm gonna take. So we're gonna go ahead and extrude this down, and we'll build from the front and also from the back. And again, we just need to build a front flap and a back flap. We don't need to have it go underneath and meet the shoulders, since the shoulder pads are gonna be there. So we just need to extrude this down. And it's nice to have something that you're snapping to, that's not getting in the way of your mesh that you're modeling. So as you can see, the flap goes all the way down and then underneath the shoulder pads. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna continue it right around and have it also be a part of the back. So it's just like it's thrown right over the front and back. So again, we're using this body as a template. You could also grab it from the DVD if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and use the soft mod tool, which is also a very powerful and dangerous tool to use. As long as you're being careful, you can, it's makes adjusting the mesh a lot easier. So then we're gonna go in and do some fine tuning, make sure it sits right above all our other materials underneath. So you can see her sleeve is underneath that shirt, which is also underneath this flap that we just modeled in. And then her shoulder pads are going to be on top of all of this. So as long as we have enough room where these pieces are going in underneath enough, far enough, then we're not going to have any gaps when it starts to deform. But at the same time, we don't have to have each section, we don't have to have the sleeve go all the way underneath the chest or the shirt go all the way underneath this chest protector. So let's dupe this over there. And we're looking pretty close as a first pass. And we're gonna go in and make sure everything is good. Usually I rough everything out and then go back in and just make sure everything's working. So we're gonna go ahead and support our edges so when we smooth we don't get that perfectly round look. And we're gonna make sure we don't have any unnecessary triangles here. I mean, having triangles isn't exactly a bad thing, but for the sake of keeping it as clean as possible, we're gonna try to avoid and only put triangles in when it's necessary. So we're just going in and adding in all the extra support lines. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just add an extra loop in here since we're gonna be making a border, and currently we had two, so using only two loops it wouldn't smooth right. So we're gonna add in a third loop and then push everything down just to get that border running right across the front and back played in. Well, it's not played in, it's more like harder canvas. So we went ahead and modeled in the shoulder pads using the same method we did for the sleeve and the shirt and the chest and back protector. So we just made the body live and extrude until we had her shoulder pad shape, and then we just got the thickness, and that's what we're doing from there. So pretty much we're using the same techniques as we did starting with the sleeve. We just roughen the shape and then go back in and refine everything. Right here we're getting in the extra little ridges that Peter has in his concept, and we're gonna add a little bit of our own. Sometimes you have a little bit of leeway. You could go ahead and add to the current design. I usually like modeling what I'm looking at without strain, because you're looking at what you're modeling and you just go ahead and get it done. A lot of times when you're adding your own touches, it just takes a lot of time since you're usually more critical about what you're doing. So in this case, it's just an extra stripe going across the shoulder pads, which matches the ones going across the sleeves. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start building out some of these accessories for the suit. These are going to be used in different parts of the suit. We're gonna just start building out each clip instead of building it where it's gonna sit on the suit itself. We're gonna build it at the origin so that we can have it on a flat plane and then duplicate it over and rotate it in place whenever we need it, instead of actually trying to build it on the suit itself in a weird orientation. So we're just gonna go ahead and build it out here, and then we go ahead later on and just carry that over. So first we use the create poly tool, draw out our initial shape, and then we just make sure we have our lines supported so that when we actually extrude this, we're not going to run into any problems. So However you may do this, it's up to you, as long as there's no issues when you smooth this out. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and combine and merge these vertices together. We're gonna go ahead and extrude this, get thickness, and we're gonna build a couple more clips and leave them at the origin. We could always grab them and move them in place later on. So these clips are a lot simpler in shape. We didn't have to use a create poly tools. We just took a cube, put a hole in there, delete a face, and went ahead and support the edges. Okay, here we're utilizing our live feature again, which just lets you do so much things. You can snap not just your points, you snap curves. You don't get your object in your way, so you could actually see what you're doing. So we're gonna go ahead and extrude this, and that's gonna be for the straps. Okay, we're gonna just add a little bit more geometry to this extruded surface, and we're just gonna make sure it's fitting nice and snug onto that shoulder pad. Kind of want to get the feel of strap really tight, so we may even add some more loops onto the shoulder pads to make it feel like the straps are even further indented. So what we're doing here is we're just adding a little detail onto the strap. And there's quite a bit of detail on the strap, but I'm probably going to leave that up to Ben. He could probably use a bump map to get out any extra, any minor details that's in there, instead of me going in and making the geometry a lot heavier. So for now, we're just going to do only minor stuff. So we're just going to have a little ridged area. And we're going to support this. And we want to make sure that all our straps are flushed with our buckles. So we don't want to have any gaps between our straps and our buckles. Same way we didn't want any gaps between each section of the suit. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure everything's just lined up perfectly. I'm going to add a little bit of extra loops. Just doing some minor detail work, making sure that lines up. Okay, so this should be fine. Again, we're gonna come back and revisit all of this, make sure everything's perfect. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just continue adding in the straps. We're gonna add a strap across the chest now, and there's quite a few straps on this suit, so we're gonna use the same method. We make our object live and draw our curve right across, and just do an extrude, and that's pretty much the deal. Okay, so we just went along and extruded this second strap here, and you notice we're moving some vertices around, because again, we're gonna want to get the feeling that these straps are really tight, holding in the pads. So we're gonna have our loops be right around the straps, so we can actually go in and add some more, and then get a little ridge going on to make it feel like the strap is being forced into the pads, just with being a little bit tight. Okay. Everything seems fine so far. Okay. You may notice we have some of the buckles underneath the character floating around. That's because we just built everything down there, and whenever we're ready, we just grab one and take it up, duplicate it, and put it in position. So we're gonna move right now. Our straps pushed too far, and so we're gonna take this chest pad in area and just push everything back so that our straps are sitting on top. Okay, we're gonna need to still do a better job of that. So let's just go in and move some stuff around a little bit more. Maybe add an extra support here. Let's get that. So now you get the feeling that it's really tight and it's raised out. Okay, so we're going ahead and we're gonna build out some of the accessories on the chest now. So we took a basic cube and we just scaled it in shape, and we're gonna go ahead and just start making this turn into some sort of a metallic canister. Um, so we just went ahead and added a bevel, and we're gonna just support some of those edges, and we're building everything for a smooth node at render time. So that means we're not gonna leave anything as is. So we have to make sure that when everything gets smooth, um, it won't collapse on itself. Now, usually you don't have to have all your objects be able to be smooth, but in this case, I wasn't sure how close we were gonna get for some of the shots, so I just went ahead and supported all the edges and made sure that it could be smooth. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. So we're gonna move this in position, and before we start in the pouch. Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna get this in place. Okay, so I guess we're on to the pouches now. Okay, just scale this down a little bit before that. Okay, so again, we start with a cube. Just get this, shape this in a little bit. And, start by just cutting in that inner inner center, and if you notice, but I deleted the face that we just extracted down there, and it's not necessary to have that face down there. A lot of times, and this pouch is gonna have a flap covering it, and a lot of times you don't actually see the inside of the pouch, or let's say this was a pocket, you wouldn't actually need to build it out. But in this instance, we're just building out everything as it would be in real world. So just in case because I think we do get close in a couple shots to the chest area, so I'm just gonna go ahead and build it out, and hopefully when we do get close, it'll hold up. So we're just adding a lot of supporting edges, and we're just gonna go ahead and randomize just the bulkiness of this pocket. Okay, so we're gonna just continue fleshing this pocket out until it starts looking like Peter's concept. just gonna add a little bit of extra loops in here and just extrude this area out just a tad bit. Let's undo that and see what it looks like. Okay, let's support these extruded faces and then let's hit smooth. Okay, so it's getting a lot closer. Okay, so we went ahead and just extruded a lid or flap over this pocket. So we just took the back edge and just extruded that guy right over. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna break up the shape even more. So we're gonna take the soft mod tool and just add a lot of irregularity in there. If that would be a pocket, it wouldn't be perfectly even in both sides, perfect thickness from top to bottom. So we're just gonna pretty much move some stuff around at random, except the back area too much. We're gonna try to keep that on a plane since it's gonna be resting on his body. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is notice we're gonna steal this little tag from the shoulder since we already have it modeled, and we're gonna just grab that down and just move that into place. You're gonna find that I'm gonna repurpose a lot of stuff if I can, when I can. A lot of times objects are just too different for you to reuse, but in this case, I need a tag, just a thin strip. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the one that I have and just model it in position. Let's get this just hugging the contours of the pocket, and let's move that in place. Okay, so just minor work. Just straighten this little Velcro strap area up. Get this positioned. Add a little bit more detail onto the pocket. Maybe get a little ridged area. Move this. Let's get this and extrude this out just for a little bit of added detail. And I think that's gonna be it for now.